They haven't been completely impressioned with the first law. They haven't been taught the first law of robotics, Calvin repeated. She was shocked. She sat back in her chair. How many modified robots were made? A few, Bogert replied. He looked down at the desk. They were part of a government order. Only a few people knew about it. It was a secret. We needed modified robots, said General Kallner. So a few of the NS2 models, the Nestors, were prepared with a modified first law. This had to be a secret. So all NS2s were made without identification numbers. Have you asked each robot who it is? Calvin asked Kallner. The general nodded. Yes, he said. All 63 robots say they have not worked here. One is lying. Dr. Calvin, we cannot let the cargo ship leave. If people find out that modified robots exist, there, destroy all 63 robots, said the robot psychologist coldly. Destroy them all. Bogert frowned. Dr. Calvin, we can't just destroy them all, he said. Each robot cost $30 million. First, we have to find the lost modified robot. Very well, she said angrily. I need facts. Why does hyperbase need these modified robots, General? We had problems with our previous robots, said Kallner. The men on the base have to work with radioactive material. It's dangerous because it has a lot of radiation. It's dangerous, but we're careful. Humans can stay in gamma radiation for about 30 minutes before they are harmed. Robots know that radiation can harm humans. If one of our men had to work where there was radiation, the nearest robot would run to save him. If the radiation was weak, the robot would successfully carry him away. But if the radiation was strong, it destroyed the robot's positronic brain. No robot can exist without a brain. So we had to stop work until the robots were removed. We told the robots, you're risking your own existence. Your life is in danger, Kallner continued. But it is only the third law of robotics that allows robots to protect their own lives. It is the first law of robotics that is the strongest law. This law says a robot must not harm a human, and it must not allow a human to be harmed. Next, we ordered the robots to stay out of the gamma radiation. But obeying a human's order is only the second law. The first law is stronger than the second law. So we decided to change, we decided to modify the first law. The modified robots were impressioned or programmed with only the first part of the first law. A robot must not harm a human. Peter, Calvin asked, is that the only difference between the laboratory robots and the ordinary NS2 models? It's the only difference, Susan. Bogert replied. They all look the same. She stood up. I'm going to sleep now, she said. Tomorrow I want to speak to the last person who saw the modified robot. But Susan Calvin did not sleep much that night. Early the next morning, she knocked on Bogart's door. I guess that you're angry about all this, he said. The psychologist stared at him. Peter, don't you realize what this means? She said. All beings, all animals, hate to be dominated. Everything, all animals hate to be controlled. And they hate to be dominated by an inferior being. They hate to be controlled by someone who is of lower intelligence. Robots are superior to humans. Why? Robots are stronger and more intelligent. Robots only obey humans because of the first law. But the law was only modified, he said. Are the modified Nestors' brains stable? She asked. Their brains are a little less stable. Now what does stable mean? If something is stable, it means it will not change. For example, a table or chair is very stable. It doesn't change. It doesn't fall down. So Calvin is nervous. They changed the brain, and so she's worried the brain may change again. This is a new experiment, so they don't know. Their brains are a little less stable, Bogart said, but he quickly continued, but they are safe. The first Nestors came to the base 9 months ago, and nothing has gone wrong with any Nestor until now. Humans aren't in danger. I'll see you at the meeting, Peter, Calvin said. So Calvin is worried that these modified robots may change on their own. They've been modified a little bit, but Calvin is worried that they may change in a way that's not good for humans. But Bogart thinks the robots are safe. Gerald Black, a young scientist of physics, sat across from Calvin and Bogart. He was nervous. You know the lost robot, Nestor 10, better than anybody else, Calvin said to Black. How is the Nestor's behavior different from ordinary robots? She asked. There's nothing especially different about the Nestors, Black said. Of course, they're much more intelligent and they're more annoying. Annoying. They irritate me. They're more annoying? Annoying, she repeated. Why do the Nestors make you angry? Have they ever refused to obey an order? Oh no, Black said quickly. The Nestors obey our orders, but if they think that you're wrong, they'll tell you. The Nestors only know what we've taught them, and they think that they know everything. Think about the day that the robot disappeared, said Bogert. Did anything unusual happen? There was a silence. I had a little problem with Nestor 10, Black said at last. He wanted me to repeat a test. He was always saying this. It was very annoying. I was angry and I was tired of it. I told him to go away, and he left. You told him to go away? Asked Dr. Calvin. What did you say? Try to remember the exact words. I said, get lost, Black replied. Get lost means go away anywhere, don't come back. Leave me alone. Bogert laughed, and he did get lost, he said. Thank you, Mr. Black, said Calvin. You may go now. "5 hours later, Susan Calvin had interviewed the 63 robots. All the robots looked the same. Bogert was waiting for her when she finished. We'll only find the lost robot when we know how it is different, she said. We can let the robot escape. We can't let the robot escape. I'll destroy them all if I have to. Have you spoken to the other modified Nestors? Yes, I have, Bogert said, and there's nothing wrong with them. They all try to show their superior intelligence, but they're harmless. Are they harmless? They aren't dangerous? Calvin said angrily. One of them is lying. That's frightening and dangerous. Listen, said Bogert. Black ordered Nestor 10 to get lost, so he disappeared. His hiding place was with the other Nestors. That was very clever. The modified Nestors feel superior. They feel they are better. The modified Nestors feel superior to other robots, said the robot psychologist. The lost robot will want to show its superiority. It thinks that superiority is very important. Soon, the lost robot may believe that superiority is more important than never harming a human. But it couldn't harm a human, could it? Said Bogert. The psychologist thought for a moment. Here's an example. If a modified robot allowed a heavy weight to fall towards a human, he wouldn't be breaking the first law. This is because he could easily catch the weight before it hit the human. And he would know this. However, when the weight leaves the robot's fingers, it falls because of gravity. At that moment, the robot would no longer be responsible. The robot would not have to do anything. The modified first law allows the robot to behave in this way. We'll have to test all the robots. We must see how they react. We need to test their reactions to the first law. In the center of the radiation room, a man sat in a chair. He was not moving or speaking. Sorry, I don't know what radiation room means, but it seems like it's a testing room. 63 Nestor robots were sitting in cubicles that were built in a circle around the man. A cubicle is like a cube without a top. It's like a box. 63 Nestor robots were sitting in boxes that were built in a circle around the man. One side of each cubicle was open. Each robot could see the man in the chair, but it could not see other robots. Looking for a picture here. I'm sorry, there's no picture. Each robot could see the man in the chair, but it could not see the other robots. The testing began. A weight dropped from the ceiling. 63 robots ran forward to save the man. Before the weight hit the man, a beam of energy pushed the weight away. At that moment, the robots stopped. The test was repeated 10 times. 10 times the robots ran forward. All of them stopped when they knew the man was safe. Kallner and Bogert were in an observation room. They were watching the tests through a window. "What's happening here?" Kallner asked. 62 of these robots will try to save the man, Bogert explained. They have to do this because they must obey the first law. The 63rd robot, Nestor 10, didn't have to try and save the man. Remember, he has been modified. The first law in his brain is not complete. However, he made a choice. The modified robot did what he wanted to do. He chose to save the man. Why? The general asked. I don't know, Bogart said. I hoped that Nestor 10 would be surprised the first time. I hoped that his reaction would be slow, but it wasn't. And now he's behaving like all the other robots. Well, then we still don't know the truth, the general said unhappily. Susan Calvin entered the room. We'll have to try a different test, she said. And we need to do it quickly. I don't like what's happening. We haven't caught Nestor 10, and he must be feeling very superior. At first, he hid because he was obeying an order. Now he's hiding because he wants to show that he's superior to humans. He wants to show that he's better than humans. What's your advice? What is your advice, Dr. Calvin? The general asked. We'll repeat the test, but we'll put electric beams between the robots and the man. We'll tell the robots that the electrical beams will kill them. We can switch the electricity off, but the robots won't know that. Will this test be successful? Asked the general. It should be, Calvin said. The normal robots will try to save the man, although they know that they will die. They have to obey the first law. Nestor 10 does not have the complete first law. So, he doesn't have to save the man. Of course, he has to obey the second law. We could order him to touch the cables and die, but he won't be ordered to do that. So, he doesn't have to follow the first or second laws. He'll follow the third law and protect his own existence. He won't do anything. In the radiation room, in the testing room, a man sat in the chair motionless, not moving, and silent. A weight dropped, but a beam pushed it away from the man at the last moment. In the cubicles, 63 robots watched. Not one moved. None of the robots moved. In the observation room, Dr. Calvin saw this and was horrified. She was very scared. Susan Calvin was interviewing all the robots again. The next robot entered the testing room. Sit down. I want to ask you some questions, Calvin said. The robot sat down. There was a man who was almost harmed in the radiation room, in the testing room. You did nothing, did you? She asked. That is correct, the robot replied. Why didn't you try to save him? She asked. Please don't think that I could harm a human, the robot said. That would be horrible. I knew that the room was dangerous for me. I would have to cross the electric beams to save the man, and I knew that I would die. But then I thought again. If I died, I would not be able to save him. I had been given no orders to do this. I would be destroying myself for nothing. That would not be logical behavior. The robot psychologist had heard the same story from the other robots. Did you think of this yourself? Did you think of this yourself? She asked. The robot paused. No. Who thought of it then? One of us had the idea last night, the robot replied. Which one? Calvin asked. She waited for several seconds for the reply. I don't know, said the robot at last. Just one of us. We have to separate the robots, Calvin said. They cannot see each other or talk to each other. Dr. Calvin, the general replied, that's impossible. Then all the robots must be destroyed, Calvin said angrily. Those robots are not going to be destroyed, Bogart said angrily. I'm responsible for them, not you. And this problem must be solved, the general said. Calvin turned to Bogart. We have one very unstable Nestor, and more that could soon become unstable, she said in a cold, hard voice. We must destroy them all. Gerald Black knocked on the door and walked into the room. I've just returned from the cargo ship, he said. I found some marks on the door locks in Area C of the ship. Area C? Calvin said quickly. The Nestors are in there, aren't they? Who made the marks? So these marks it means that someone tried to open the door in Area C. Maybe they used a tool, but it left a mark or a scratch or something. Anyway, it means that someone or something tried to enter the Area C. The marks were on the inside of the door of Area C. Two of my men, Robbins and McAdams, are guarding the door now. What does this mean? Connor asked. This means that Nestor 10 is planning to leave the base, Calvin replied. He's trying to break the locks. He could easily steal a spaceship and leave with it. Then we'd have a crazy robot on a spaceship. What would he do next? I have no idea, General. The Nestor 10 is the same as the normal robots, except she stopped suddenly.